All right, we are live.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to Psych Out. I am an actual human named Alex, and with me is Thomas Panter. Today, we're going to be talking about self, personality, self concept, identity, character. But first, I would like to mention where we are right now. We are within the Pangburn universe. We have some events coming up soon. Just pull them up.
Lay it out for us, Big Papa.
All right. First, I have to pull them up.
It's okay. So, guys, in Detroit on April 26th or 28th, we'll get that straight in a second. We're starting our anti-Trump tour with Destiny, and everybody is, of course, welcome. I believe tickets are still on sale at Pangburn. We'll get that to you, but it's pangburn.com, or I'm sure there's ticket link sales on the warofideas.com, I think, Travis's personal website. But we'll figure that in a second, give you the right details.
Pang-burn.com/tickets.
There you go.
The anti-RFK Jr. tour and the anti-Trump tour.
What's the exact date for the anti-Trump tour?
So the anti-Trump tour is April 26th.
Okay, I got that right.
And
Then. All right.
the anti-RFK Jr. tour is June 28th at 7 p.m.
Fantastic.
Yes. So
We hope to see you there.
Come and debate with us. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us why vaccines cause autism.
What?
I was just joking. Go ahead.
Yeah, so today we are going to be talking about the psychological and the philosophical understandings of the self and the different concepts that are inside of those things. So if anybody has any questions, please come over to the Pangburn Discord. You can join us in the chat. You can come up on stage and talk with us, ask us questions, or you can just type your questions in the chat. We'd love to hear them. You're going to get good faith, honest answers from us. Cool. Level heads will prevail.
Yes, agreed.
So I guess let's start off on like the big concept of what is the self. So psychologically, at least, a person's understanding of themselves, your own awareness of your personhood, like conscious, unconscious aspect. There's aspects of your identity, experience, and agency inside of that. There are a lot of different theories and how the self is up to be made.
Yes, both in the psychology of self and both in the philosophy of self.
Yeah, Thomas, if you would like to give a rundown of the philosophy of self.
The philosophy of self is more or less just asking like the nature of self. How can we define what a self is? Is it the same thing as consciousness? Of course, what is consciousness? But then there's things, there's many different questions. I can look it up and we can go through it here in just a second after I look it up. But so the philosophy of self is just understanding that we have this thing of conscious self-aware. We have self-awareness, and then we have conscious self-awareness, which is the introspective, metacognizant part of it. But then, there's many different theories of self in philosophy, just like in psychology. I'm going to trust probably the ones in psychology more so, but I still love the philosophical ideas because that's how we build our frameworks to understanding something. But the basic idea is that your self-concept is slowly built through introspection, moral evaluation, moral reflection, all these things, all of it, paying attention to your thoughts and feelings. And all of that culminates into, personality, character, identity, all of it. And then they focus more on what's the word is self-concept is the construct in your mind that you're thinking about when you're analyzing that shit that you literally just described a second ago.
Yes.
So what it's trying to do is through this self-awareness, we're trying to build self-knowledge, and that self-knowledge raises our self-awareness, and it's like a virtuous circular loop. But I think that's what the philosophy of self is mainly going for. There are other small facets. I'll be looking that up as you're going ahead.
Yeah, so I'll talk about like an older theory of self within psychology, and psychology is like, I mean, psychology itself is as old as you can imagine. People have been writing about themselves forever. The idea of things happening over time that affect how we view and look at ourselves is just as old as writing. But psychology, as we view it today, under like a scientific model, there are theories from like the 1800s. So like there's the dual self theory from 1890. That's the I self and the me self. The I self is subjective knowledge, and the me self is objective knowledge. So when they use these terms, they mean like there is the I self. So I know when I feel pain. The me self can see that I have cuts on me. It can see that I have like a bone sticking out of me or something. And so it knows that I'm hurt, but the I self knows that the hurt is painful.
Correct.
But evolving after that of just these like felt sense versus things that I can see is the self discrepancy theory. That's Higgins in 87. Higgins said that the self has actual, ideal, and ought self. So there's three differences. Discrepancies cause emotional discomfort. That's why you get the ookie bookies and the butterflies in your stomach when you do something wrong, or shame, or guilty. All of those very fun emotions that prove that we interact with the world around us.
Mm-hmm.
There's a self-determination theory. Ryan and Deci in 2000. It emphasizes autonomy. It emphasizes the fact that you are autonomous, that you have competence, and that you have a relatedness in self-construction. So when you build yourself and you build the idea of yourself, it is relational to the like it's in comparison to the people around you. You learn
Intersubjectivity.
Yeah.
Sorry. I just fucking jumped in there. I'm not. I don't need to cuss. Sorry.
No, absolutely.
Sorry, I was just saying intersubjectivity is kind of what you're talking about, right? Like Edmund Husserl.
Yes, I am. Yeah, and and that's why I'm trying to be very specific with my language, because these terms are used in philosophy and they're used differently in psychology. And that's why we're talking about both right now. Then there is the narrative therapy. I am a fan of the narrative self theory. I do a lot of narrative therapy in practice. I forgot to say this at the beginning. I am I am an associate marriage and family therapist. So I have been working in psychology for many years, in and out of rehabs and psych wards, and now I'm in private practice. But the narrative self theory, the self is the self is constructed through internalized and evolving life stories. This is very similar to David Hume's philosophical take on the self, that we are a bundle of different events and that those things have effects on each other.
Bundle theory of self.
So anytime that you are talking about yourself, the narrative theory would say that you are created between the yes, my name is Alex and I am a therapist. I have an idea of what a therapist is. You have an idea of what a therapist is. And what I tell myself about that word is a story that I am telling myself. And I am the character inside of that story. So I have to live up to the things I believe a therapist is.
Mm-hmm.
Just like if someone were to ask you a question, between the end of the answer and the beginning of it, that's the story that you're telling the other person.
Yeah, I mean, yes, very true. All this stuff is socially constructed, these stories and narratives. that a lot of people live their lives on.
Seems to be related to memory reconsolidation, and how we symbolically reconstruct the past. Yes, it does. The reconsolidation is your brain being an editor and being like, no, we don't need this stuff. That's a run-on sentence. Should we scrap it, rewrite it, or add a semicolon? And so your brain does that every night.
Yeah. That's right. Me and Dalsu studied dreams, and I'll just be quick about this, but we found out that a lot of the theories are memory reconsolidation and like defragmentation, a lot of mental processes.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other philosophical theories of the self that you want to bring up?
Oh yeah, I can bring up plenty. I was just going to let you go on because I want to learn.
Yeah. So those are the theories of self that I have right now. There are many of them. I didn't want to ramble on like 10 different things, so I had 4.
Well, I mean, if you want to go in deeper, of course I'm interested, but I don't want to bore the audience because we can all go look this up later. But so in philosophy of self, we're defining the self. That's the first thing. So we're looking for the essential qualities, the essence of self. And so it seeks to define the characteristics that distinguish one person from another. So your individuality, how do we define individuality when everything is an interconnected whole? It deals with a bit of mereology. It deals with a bit of other things to figure out what that question means and how to answer it in some salient way. Unity and source of consciousness. The self is seen as a unified being. This being is the source of consciousness. I don't know what that is, and the agent responsible for thoughts and actions attributed to that individual. What do you think about that? Huh?
Thomas, what's the source of consciousness?
You got me, bro. You got me. Let's just guess. Let's just take wild guesses. What do you think?
Wild guesses. Great.
I think consciousness comes from the inside of the sun. It's a good theory, right?
Consciousness comes out of the sun. Our brains are antennas that collect that information.
Okay.
No, not at all.
So another part of defining the self is like persistence through time. This is a temporal thing. It is considered a substance that the self is a substance in this case that endures through time. So like a process philosophy, that the act of becoming, not just being. You know what I mean? Actions and thoughts at different moments can be attributed to the same self. How do we say that these actions over time are the same self if it's constantly evolving and changing, right?
Yes.
Right. So that's defining the self. We can go... Oh, go ahead.
No, because I was just saying, because I do affirm it as myself.
Yeah. Yeah. We are our own individuality, I think. Yes. I mean, we define that. Did you want to say anything about your opinions on defining the self?
So we are definitely going to get more into it as we continue, because I think that our self really comes into place. If the self is kind of this giant umbrella term for everything that we are and identify ourselves.
I agree.
And what is it? Oh my God, brain. Self-determination theory.
Self-determination theory, yeah.
Yeah, that we are in relation to the world around us. Thomas, we're getting a lot of feedback from your mic.
Oh my God, I hate that shit. I'm just sitting in my room as far away from the fan as I can. I'm sorry. I may have to go in the living room.
Stop.
Can you hear it now? Can you hear it now? Is it bad?
That's better.
Okay.
Awesome. So happened again. So I think that we are in relation to the world around us, that we do a lot of comparison. Some comparison, very healthy. Some comparison, stop doing that. You are who you are, not who others are. That's where that dissonance comes from. The
Mhm.
discrepancy causes discomfort. Comes from a
Yes,
lot
sir.
of shame and guilt in comparison to others.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes very good to compare yourself to others. That's how you learn.
Yes, I agree.
But I think that like character and identity, there's really a lot to say about those inside of the concept itself. Like character is kind of our like moral, it's the moral and ethical aspects of our personality. It's like I don't want to say that it's like stable over time because it's like it's constantly changing. It takes a very long time to change this stuff. It takes a very long time to acquire these things. It is a snail's process.
Yes.
Things move like molasses when it comes to character.
Mm.
You have your internal idea of how you feel about the situation, what you would like to do, what you would have liked to have done. And then you have and then there is other people know our character because they like this is the part of the self that can be observed in our actions. Like there's a lot of behavior with character. Like you know yourself, others know your behavior.
Yes, I agree. Personally, I think character is all of what you just described, but also including virtues, our character virtues.
Yes, virtue ethics.
Yes, I am a fan of virtue ethics. Yes.
Yeah, Peterson and Siegelman. We did put Jordan Peterson in the description. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, we can talk more about character if you want to, or I can explore a few things more in the philosophy of self.
If you have more to say about the philosophy of self, yeah, go ahead.
I have more to say. I just don't want to take up your show, buddy. I'm learning a lot from you.
No. I like you said, I also love learning this stuff.
Right. I think we should invite here in a minute. Let's invite Mega Wavy up here because I'd like to get his thoughts as well on some of this. But he could help us as well because he contemplates these same things. But exploring the nature of self is going to be the next area of this. It's mixes with the philosophy of mind. The philosophy of self and the philosophy of mind are kind of nested. But some theories explore the connection between the mind and body in defining the self, like monism, dualism, all this kind of stuff. What is it? Physical processes, all that. And then it goes to consciousness and self-awareness. The self is closely linked to consciousness and self-awareness. Philosophers explore how awareness of thoughts, feelings, and experiences contribute to the sense of self. I don't know too much about how we could say consciousness contributes to self, or whether self is equated to consciousness or awareness is equated to consciousness. There's a lot of problems in the usage of that word in philosophy and in psychology. As you know, I know you know this well, but so when people start talking about consciousness and self-awareness as two different things or the same thing, it really gets confusing to me. Anyway, awareness is something we can show through attention and focus and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, two more things, and then I'll let you go on. Perception and action. The role of perception and actions in shaping self-understanding and identity is also examined in the philosophy of self. So we have to understand our perception includes our senses. So our senses also build our sense of self. That's a weird sentence, but you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Social and cultural context. Of course, all this stuff that we're involved in an intersubjective dance with individuals, with groups, with nations, with societies, and with the world. There's all these different levels of intersubjective activity that socially construct our view of meaning, language, knowledge, morality. All of it is within the social space. That doesn't mean it isn't real. It's absolutely real.
Yes. Yeah, language is a huge part of this. You can't really identify yourself if you don't have, the words of self, identify.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
If you don't understand like the nuances of what trauma could be or what could be traumatic, then you might be like, oh yeah, my dad beat the shit out of me when I was a kid. Totally normal. And someone's like, oh, that sounds traumatic. And then you're instantly like, wait a second. And it reframes all of that stuff. And that's why I was saying, like, I'm not comfortable saying that the self is a fixed thing. Because it does, and like ethics, morals, identity, all of this shifts and changes as we get new we're like, as our vocabulary grows, so does our understanding of the things around us and ourselves.
Yeah, this is how we live out our personhood as we are becoming and changing.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about would you rather talk about personality, identity, or character?
Let's dive into a bit more personality. Tell us the best. I looked up actually some good models, and here you can tell me what you think of these models. I'd like to get your idea. If I can find the dadgum place on my phone where I saved it. There it is. Okay. So this is actually one of the best ways to test for personality that I know of, the MMPI, the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. I had that done on me when I went into the psych ward. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, the MMPI is a thing that, yes, like you said, it's a thing that we give everybody that comes into the psych ward. It helps us identify if somebody is feeling like feelings of shame, guilt, hopelessness, helplessness, things that would tell us that this person is going through a depressive state or a manic state. It allows us to note down this person's understanding of themselves. I can't look at a person and be like, yes, the hopelessness aura is waving off of this person. It's colored hue. So like that's not a thing that we can see. So the MMPI helps us know what the other person is going through from their own thing. It's also, and whenever we give it in a psych ward, we're doing it with the person. So we are able to sit there and explain different words, what they mean, go through it. So if you don't understand like different terms or like why we're saying things a certain way, you can ask. And then we can learn together and get a better understanding of that. So it's not only is it a good tool for us to understand where you're coming from and where you are, it is also helpful for learning.
Absolutely. Let's get your opinion on the one that everybody uses. And I'm not saying it's worthless, but please tell me about the Big Five model, the ocean model, and why you think it may or may not be useful.
Big Five ocean model. Ocean, openness. What is it?
Conscientiousness.
Yes. Okay. Openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism.
Yes.
Yeah. These are the only 5 things that identify you. There is nothing else. I think, like I said, the self is not fixed, and so I'm not a big fan of like, is this person open or closed? What topic are we talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
The more a person knows about a topic, the more open they're going to be. If we're going to talk about a topic that you don't know absolutely anything about, you're probably going to be more closed off. And depending on what kind of person you are, as the person that's like asking questions to a person or engaging people in a topic, they might become more or less open. Conscientiousness, again, are you conscientious in what moment? Are you in a rush? I like that. It doesn't take into account context
or situational changes.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no like And this is why I'm not a big fan of many of the personality tests, is that most of them aren't like, how has your day been going today or this week? Because you could be very introverted today. You had a big day yesterday, and now you want everybody to go away.
To go away. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
I'm trying to watch what I say.
Sorry, Perry. Go ahead, bud.
It's very difficult to objectify the subject. Not only is it difficult, but I think oftentimes we should avoid doing such a thing when we can. We should not abide to the 5 personality trait OSHA objective. We should abide to whatever language we can use to describe our own experience based on these context-dependent scenarios that we run into. When we try to objectify ourselves, especially using a measly 5 adjectives or categories, I think it becomes very difficult to understand the human condition. We should avoid doing those things when we can. We have to objectify ourselves sometimes and abide to whatever, we have to eat 2,000 calories a day. We have to sleep for 8 hours, etc.
And so I am comfortable saying this about personality tests, though. If you take them and you're like, oh, I want to know where I am with like Myers-Briggs. I want to know where I am with Ocean. I want to know where I am with traits and states that I'm in. If you were to take these tests like very like sporadically, random dates throughout the year, then you would have an overview of like, oh, some days I'm like this, some days I'm like this, some days I'm like that. The more data you'd have, then you'd be like, what did I have to eat that day? If you are a person who likes journaling, and you were to take tests to see what kind of personality you have, you could have the answers to the tests in the journal showing like, oh, like this was my day yesterday and this is my day today, and I was way less extroverted this day, or I was a lot more extroverted this day, and you'd see where those things are coming from.
Mm-hmm.
You're not.
They could be very useful heuristics. There's no doubt about it.
Yes.
Let me point out, this is just a quick fact, and I'm sure Alex can explain this perfectly, why we don't think in terms of neuroticism anymore.
What is neuroticism for me and for the class?
It's basically the pathology of like their tendency to experience negative or fearful or uncertain emotions like anxiety, sadness, anger, all this kind of stuff. Neuroticism, I think, was a way for early psychodynamicists and early psychologists to characterize many psychopathologies and kind of oversimplify it. I was hoping Alec could shed a little bit more light on that.
That is kind of it. So we don't use the term neurosis anymore. It hasn't been in the DSM. We now call it anxiety. You're not being neurotic. You are not neurotic. You have anxiety. It is a much better, like, instead of telling somebody that there's something intrinsically wrong with them and they're just, you're neurotic, you have that's your brain, like that, there you go. Now we can say that you are having symptoms in line with anxiety. You have generalized anxiety. You have it. It's a thing that you don't, like, it's not you. It's just a thing that you're currently holding. It takes a lot of the burden off of a person.
So would you say
burden that actually isn't there?
Would you say then that it's more accurate to say that I have anxiety rather than saying I am anxious?
Okay, so one of those is talking about a disordered thought process, I guess, and the other one is talking about a felt sense. So if you feel anxious, you're like, okay, I take a breath. Oh no, I don't want to get up on stage. I hate talking in front of people. And you have like a very like felt internal sense of anxiety. You can absolutely say, I'm feeling anxious. Or I'm anxious. I'm feeling anxious would probably be a better way to conceptualize it for yourself. Like if you're gonna say it out loud, saying I feel anxious would probably be a lot better than saying I'm anxious.
Yes, I agree. Let me ask real quick, Alex. We can agree, I think everybody up here can agree, that the Myers-Briggs is way too simple, right? Way too not well descriptive enough for personality.
Yeah, I'm too simple to really know what the Myers-Briggs is, but I'll take your word that it's even more simple than my lack of understanding of it.
I did not mean I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make it sound like that.
No, I'm making it sound like that. You didn't make it sound like that.
Okay. So for the class, it's a popular personality based on Carl Jung's theory of like personality, psychological types, basically. So what do you think about that, Alex?
It is wildly inconsistent. Again, depending on the day you're having, you will get drastically different answers, like wildly different answers.
Right.
So because it's inconsistent, you can't use it to have predictability for anything. People use this a lot to figure out what kind of jobs they should have. And because, like I said, because it's inconsistent, because it's oversimplified, it doesn't have predictive ability.
Yeah.
Again, and it also
go ahead.
And I mean, there's a lot to say about Carl Jung. He did a lot for the idea of like dreams aren't consistent and they are purely like self-dependent. Where Freud was like, no, they're objective and different things mean certain things. Carl Jung still had some of that with his archetypes. But so he did help in the psychology world when he was alive, but in having a test that's based off of a theory that is very old in a soft science that is still evolving, not a good idea.
Yeah, for sure.
Keep your test in the present.
That would kind of hold to the Enneagram models. You know what I'm talking about?
Enneagram?
Enneagram, yeah.
Enneagram.
That's
yeah. These are archetypical. Yeah.
Yeah. So hexaco model, same thing.
Yes.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah,
so you could either do that, or you could have some psychodynamic theories, I guess, or behavioral, humanistic theories, cognitive theories.
No, exactly.
It seems like though Freud was likely way off in some cases, maybe he had some good insight in others. I think perhaps he was correct in trying to objectify and make objective some of these things. Now, this may sound contradictory to what I was saying earlier, but as you said, psychology is a soft science. When we don't allow for some sort of independent existence or, the reasoning for these state of affairs, we could end up having things like Myers-Briggs tests or the archetype of the quiescent farmer and all of these kind of nonsense things that don't really give us the insight that we're looking for in terms of describing important things like anxiety or other, DSM mental. I mean, that's what the DSM does. I think it tries to make objective a lot of these things, and it doesn't put them in some of these woo-woo soft science categories.
That's the attempt. Yeah.
Yeah.
But as people aren't like fixed points, as people are constantly changing, it is very difficult to do that kind of stuff, which is why it's still a soft science. Neurology, less soft, that's a science.
Right.
Could you speak on like a humanistic theory of personality, like the potential for growth, the becoming thing, and like self-actualization? Could you tell me what that is?
Yeah. No, okay. I love the humanistic theory. Carl Rogers. So just pull up my notes on Rogers really fast. But yeah.
People did.
Never trust a guy with two first names.
Carl Rogers. I like to call him Mr. So
William
nice.
James. William James.
William James, never trust him.
Oh, there's probably a lot of those in philosophy and psychology. Trying to think of another one. I can't think of another one.
Yeah, so the humanistic theories, they emphasize empathy. They are person-centered therapies. So instead of like me analyzing the person, I am sitting there with them. I am engaging fully in the person's state. I am delving as deep into my empathetic abilities as I can. I'm not trying to be sympathetic. I'm not trying to be compassionate. I am actually being empathetic. So if they're sad, they're angry, I'm angry. It's about being genuine, unconditional positive regard. This is how I have unlimited patience for people. So unconditional positive regard is when we as therapists, like somebody says something that to you, if someone were to say that to you in public, you'd be like, what is wrong with you? You did what? And I just sit there and I go, yeah. How'd that happen? Or tell me more about that. Because I'm holding the person in their own state. Because I'm being so empathetic with the person, I can sit there and go, oh, I see your best self inside of this horrible action that you did.
I would actually like to brag on Perry that I think he does that a lot with his moral system.
Awesome. As we should.
And so if what I'm about to ask is true, then yeah, I would agree that is my intention in most conversations. So Alex, is what you're doing there, are you taking notes as a therapist, or are you just listening as an interlocutor when you're doing that?
I am listening as a therapist.
Good. So yeah, I would, and this is kind of the category of subjectifying and subjectivity that I try to focus on. I don't want to be sitting there taking notes while this person is spilling their feelings to me about a situation. I don't want to objectify my interlocutor as so far as I don't need to.
So in my sessions, I do take notes, but it becomes so normative that people do not notice it. They're like, how did you remember that I said that like 3 weeks ago? And I'm like, I am taking notes directly in front of you.
Yeah, I have the memory of an elephant until about like 2 years, and then the weed kicks in and kind of like Control Alt deletes it all. But in terms of short-term memory, I'm pretty decent. But I would appeal to you.
I can remember almost everything about all of my clients because I am I love narrative therapy. I view it through a humanistic lens. So I see and hear the person's story. I feel the person's story as they are telling it, and I see the difference between their ideal self and their real self. So like I would like to be the person that does this kind of things, but this is what I actually did.
Makes sense.
And then we see where that dissonance is and what stopped them from doing their idea.
Oh, it's like a sense of self-integrity, right? Like a sense of, yeah.
You realize the character that you have.
Yeah. I think the humanistic approach is very good. If that's what you're doing, I approve.
Yeah. Yes, the humanistic theory is wonderful.
It
seems
is.
like you put an emphasis on empathy in the beginning of describing Carl Rogers' humanistic kind of, and that's very important, it seems to me.
He was a wonderfully kind person.
That's beautiful.
Deeply, deeply empathetic. If you have not heard of him, Mr. Rogers is great.
Mr. Rogers, yeah.
I'm saying similar people.
Yeah. Let me ask, but while we're on this exact topic here about seeing personality through these different schools of thought in psychology, we talked about the humanistic one. Can you tell me more about like the behavioral social learning approaches? These approaches emphasize the role of learning and environmental factors in shaping personality.
Yes. So these theory of self are kind of like external theories for what So we were talking about how the self isn't fixed. There's a lot of context to the self. There's a lot of things that come into the self, and those theories focus on like how were you raised? How is your relationship with the people around you? What's authority to you? What environment did you grow up in? What values do you hold from that environment? And so when you're looking at it, you have your immediate family, your extended family, your friends, and then like teachers, coworkers, and then random people that you run into in the streets.
Right.
And they different levels on you because of that.
Yeah, completely different way of looking at it. Yeah.
I'm making my hands wider as I do this, but like if your parents are bad and you consciously or subconsciously out them, maybe the teacher, like you have a really good teacher and that's the person that's at your core, or maybe it's one of your siblings. So like you have the people that are close to you, the people that you interact with on a semi day-to-day basis, that like you have vulnerability for, the people that you have less vulnerability for, and then some random people that are just showing up, and depending on who you are as a person, maybe you have more or less vulnerability towards strangers.
Yeah, I can see how the external approach would tell you one side of the story about how yourself is socially constructed, and behaviorally constructed. So that's brilliant to at least consider, right? We should still study that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and it really helps to also understand your cultural understanding of yourself.
Right, the sociocultural identity that you have, yeah.
Again, I have had clients where they're like, oh, I've been beaten, my friends have been beaten, this is just a normal occurrence. What do you mean that's child abuse?
Right. That sucks.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Last and not least, we'll do this, and then I guess we can go on to other things. Tell me about the cognitive psychology theory of how we would go about categorizing personality.
Would you like to define cognitive for the class?
So, yeah, for the class. Cognitive psychology looks at the computer metaphorically as like a brain with input and output processes. It thinks of neurons in the brain as generating thoughts and feelings and beliefs instead of like it's basically like thinking about it as a physical system, not like in neuroscience. It's still psychology, but that's about the best way I can explain it without going to Wikipedia. So if you want to elaborate on that, I'd love it.
Oh, absolutely. Behaviors, thoughts, feelings go back into behaviors. It's a cyclical thing. So you do something, you have a thought about the thing that you just did, you feel a certain way about that thing, and that either reinforces or dissuades you from doing the behavior in the future. That's how CBT works. So if somebody wants to change a behavior that they're having, and that's what we're looking at in CBT, then we have to figure out what the thought that they had, what the feeling that they had before and after this thing was, so that we can change the behavior that they're doing. So let's say that somebody made you mad. So you had a feeling of anger and it resulted in a certain behavior. So how can we change the thought that, like, this person told you something, you had a thought, and then you became angry? So what was the thought that you had? How can we change that? It's like when I told Perry, I was like, it would be better to say that I feel anxious than I am anxious, because the thought of I am anxious, then I am the anxiety being. And that will then dictate how I feel moving forward as the being itself of anxiety, and that affects my behavior later. So if I am just holding anxiety, and then I have the feeling of like, oh, the anxiety is just a thing that's happening right now, then it will become more manageable in the future, and then my behavior will show that.
Right.
And CBT has its place. I liked the ACT model more, acceptance commitment therapy, where a person acknowledges their behavior, they acknowledge their thoughts and feelings, and then we talk about the ideal self. What would I like to do? What would I like this in the ideal situation to look like? And then we find not a middle ground, but like a baby step forward towards that end goal. And they commit to that thing. And because they have and it's not them committing to me, it's them finding an understanding within themselves and committing to themselves to take actions.
Even if our real self can't ever achieve this ideal self, it is important to at least intend and attempt to take that baby step towards the ideal self.
Oh, I so agree. Oh, that's such a good, wise thing to say. Yes.
And if we find out that the ideal self is just too far out of reach, we can go back to the drawing board and see what's more practical.
Disagree. No, but like, I don't disagree. You have that ideal self, the Atman in Hinduism, that it's like, it's way out there. It's way out of reach. None of us are getting there today. Don't think about it like that. You're not trying to be your perfect self right now, immediately. Right. It is like, that's what I'm saying. We look at that gigantic thing, we see what's halfway, we see what's halfway, we see what's halfway, and we just move down until you can get out of bed and go, hey, it's a good thing that I can breathe. Look at me taking steps without broken legs. Tiny victories.
So hilariously enough, the third part of what I was going to cover on the philosophy of self literally just covered everything you talked about. Self as substance, self as a bundle of perception, Hume's theory, narrative self, and no self, Eastern philosophy. Oh, that was perfect. You covered it all. The last thing that I would cover is like self and identity, and I think we've already been talking about this, but and I mentioned this, personal identity. The philosophy of self explores what makes a person the same person over time. We did mention that, and how mental states can be the same through neuroplasticity, things like that. Self-knowledge, we talked about how self-awareness builds self-knowledge and self-knowledge builds self-awareness. It's like an interconnected system, but it investigates how individuals know that they have a self, what they know about their self. That's self-knowledge. And we can only increase that through introspection and self-awareness. So reflection on our moral evaluations, things like that. So that's probably the last thing I would bring up in philosophy about self.
This is why people should meditate.
Yes.
Yeah. There are so many different kinds of meditation, and everybody thinks that it's just sitting there attempting to not think. And while that is a perfectly valid form of meditation and is fantastic in certain circumstances and situations, there are also ones that are like, I will have a single thought and I will go, wait, where did that one come from? Oh, wait, where did that one come from? And I just go down that line, then oh, wait, where did that one come from? And keep going down that line. Great for people with ADHD. It lets you think and have random thoughts. It encourages it. and you just follow that thing down the rabbit hole. Where did that one come from? Where did that one come from?
Right.
And it is a giant tunnel of introspection.
Right. If I may ask a quick personal question, I'm sure you don't mind sharing this. Everybody's journey to self is different. I know mine was different. I know Perry's was different. What was your journey to self? To consolidating and enriching and building and all that yourself.
Going to therapy. Yeah, no, honestly. So when I started going to therapy, I did a lot of like, okay, I need to tell this person my whole life. I need to tell this person what's going wrong in my life. I need to tell this person like who I am, what I've been through, the different ways I've coped really badly with situations. And in doing that, in telling my story over and over and over again, and like having to say it out loud. It's one thing to say things to yourself. It's another thing to tell another person that's actively asking you questions and is very engaged with what you're saying. That you become because you're saying it out loud, you become very aware of how you talk about yourself, what you think the self is for you individually, and if your therapist is taking good notes in a year after you've done therapy, they can be like, hey man, so a year ago you said that you were garbage and trash. Is that true? Yeah, which can bring a lot of awareness to that.
Right. That's awesome. So that's an awesome journey. If you don't mind, Perry.
Infinitely honored. Infinitely honored to help people come to that understanding also. That's why I have
and I love that you're doing, and I love you for it. Shows your high moral character. It really does. Perry, can I ask the same question of you if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, so around 2020, 2021, in the midst of COVID, I had already suffered with depression and certain things like that. And so there was a great demand for me to seek myself and what that was for me. Through a series of circumstantial events, seeing videos on YouTube, joining Call-In, meeting you guys and whatnot, that was a very important and crucial step in finding myself, which is still an ongoing journey, no doubt, and will continue to be an ongoing journey until myself is no more. I would say that DBT has been one of the greatest mechanisms for me in discovering myself. Just learning how to not only talk, but communicate with other people in an intelligible way to understand them and maybe get insight to my own self has been extremely beneficial. And as I said, it's an ongoing process. It's a becoming thing. It's not a being thing. I haven't just discovered the being of myself, only continuous becoming of it.
I agree with this. I mean, I agree entirely with Alex's sentiments on this. I've experienced a lot of that, and I also agree with Perry's sentiments on this. I've experienced a lot of that as well. I do agree that DBT is a great way to go about it as well, especially the things that Alex said about how he went through the therapy and did that. For me, it's relatively the same. Around in my early 20s, I wasn't going through crazy bipolar yet. That came about in 25, but in my early 20s, I had hallucinogenic experiences and drug experiences that made me question myself. And I started to, along the same lines of Perry and Alex, I did those things, but I introspected so deeply that I found an inner universe, metaphorically, I found an inner quantum realm of mental states. And like my imagination just exploded. It allows me to explore parts of myself and my self-concept that I never even knew existed. We have a universe inside our minds. And I want to help people try to understand that and maybe come to feel at one with that feeling.
And
Absolutely.
I as well would like to add, go to therapy if you're having trouble with your life, with your inner life, this inner universe that Thomas was describing. That is something that I have not done. And to reference Alex's example, well, I have, but not as much as I should. And though I haven't experienced from firsthand the benefits, I'm sure Thomas and Alex could probably vouch for the efficacy of therapy, which I need to do beyond my own DBT. You know, I need to find a therapist other than myself. And I think other people should do that as well.
I have opinions about BetterHelp.com. Sorry, that just popped up in the chat.
please go on, please.
Yeah, go for it. What is it? What is BetterHelp.com?
BetterHelp.com is an online therapy, telehealth provider.
Quote unquote therapy. Okay.
Very, very quote unquote. If you are, and I said this last week also, is that if you are doing therapy 15 minutes once a month, that is not therapy. If you are doing therapy half an hour once a month, that is not therapy. If you are doing therapy for up to let's say 50 to 90 minutes every other week, that's a great start. That's fantastic.
The bare minimum.
Every other week is fine. If you're just starting therapy and you've never been to therapy before, I highly recommend doing a full session once a week for at least a month or two, and then see where you're at. Talk to your therapist. They will know. Have faith in them. If it's not a good fit, drop them. Ask them to help you find someone else. We don't care. We want you the best for you. But yeah, no, BetterHelp, it pays, and I'll talk about it from a therapist perspective. It pays trash. It is absolutely nothing. Yes, they do a lot of paperwork for you, which is fantastic. Things I don't want to do, but I will do, and I do. But they shouldn't be paying a therapist who's been in the practice for 30 years $20 an hour.
Wow.
It is like Uber for therapists. Yes.
Wow.
Uber is also Uber for therapists. Just throwing that out there. I'm driving taxis and doing therapy.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. If I may steer the conversation back a bit, unless you guys want to continue on the tangent.
No, I actually wanted to steer it back to identity, if that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely, please.
Awesome. Again, I just want to let everyone know that please feel free to ask questions in the chat. We will answer them if they're related to psychology or things they're about, social psychology, evolutionary psychology. We can answer these things. If you would like to speak, please come on and join the Discord. If you hate what we're saying, I would love for you to come in here and tell me to get a different job. So back to identity and, identity. It's a sense of who you is, the roles that you have, the groups that you're affiliated with, the groups that you identify with, and the in groups and the out groups that you have concepts of. Your self-concept through social and psychological processes. These are what create identity. You're like, oh, this is my job. That's part of your identity. This is the sexuality I have. That's part of your identity. If you put anything that you put a lot of emphasis in, you're like, I play guitar, and you're like, no, that's a big key component of who I am.
Yeah, so you mentioned
I smoke a lot of weed. I don't know. Yeah. You can identity can be anything that you put a lot of emphasis into.
It's like you hear me taking a drag out of my joint right now, and you're just speaking directly at me. You mentioned the distinction between character and personality. character being more so your moral kind of actions and whatnot.
I was
I'm sure
literally
though.
about to bring. I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I was literally about to ask him about that a second ago, so I'm glad you bring
I
it
mean,
up.
I'd rather hear your question, or if you want me to ask it. I was just going to say, is character and personality part of identity? But if you have a more elaborate question,
There is a bit, and I'll let you go for it. I just my personal opinion. I don't know if Alex completely agrees, but I see personality, character, and identity as integral parts, if not the only three parts of constituting the self. I'm not going to make the claim that that's the only three parts, but you get my ideology. No,
Yeah,
I can go over like the ideas of character, but I'd rather hear you ask your question, Perry.
that was it. It's just, I mean, I like that question. It seems to me personality, character, and identity are three useful heuristical categories to describe what the self is. What would you add or take away from those three categories to describe the self?
Good question.
Because I wouldn't take any of that away. I might become more nuanced with them, but they as we have shown, there is nuance within all of these things. But and this is what I'm going to say. This is what I was about to say about identity, because there's social theories of identity. And then there's like self theories of identity. So like I would kind of like show that split, I guess, a little bit, is that like there is the you that you identify as in certain contexts and certain situations, but then there's the one that follows you all day.
Yeah, makes sense.
I wonder if I could make any like Jungian or Freudian connection between short-term memory and its relation to that context nuanced self, and then long-term memory and its connection to the self that follows you around all day, as you described.
I wouldn't make a connection to like short-term memory, because identities are things that we build, and they are lasting. They flow, they change, but they so like in most models, you like Erickson's model. You are like you have the role that you're supposed to be having, and the confusion of that role. What is it? Freud had his like the sexual stage, the anal stage, like all the different stages that you go through as you become a fully realized person.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, memories change too.
Yes.
I forget what the phenomenon is called, but even myself, I can recognize changes of certain memories that I've had, where I find myself either adding or forgetting things and then re-remembering and whatever. But yeah, I agree. We probably shouldn't connect short-term memory, at least, with certain ideas of the self. It's probably not that useful.
Well, yeah, because I mean, all of this is like I think that the way that we're talking about personality is like all of this is like this is all long-term stuff.
I agree.
How you identify yourself at work and how you identify yourself at home may have like I would say, like there are subtle differences there. There is a mask that you wear at work, and maybe less of a mask at home, or there might be another mask at home. There's the mask that you wear when you are reacting to situations, because it's the meme of
your superficial identity you give to the public.
Yep. So that the crying face under the mask would be your like this is your like actual identity, and the other things are what you're showing. Yeah.
Right.
It's masks all the way down, perhaps, and there is no true sense of the self.
Oh,
yeah.
I swear to God.
And I digest.
It takes too much energy to wear masks. I don't wear masks anymore.
Let's dive into character for just a second, if I may, Alex. Do you have anything else you want to go on? This is your show, brother.
Yeah, no, I would love to talk about ethics and morals.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so in psychology class, character refers to the enduring, which over time, moral, ethical, and social qualities that define a person's actions and beliefs. Okay? Often used synonymously with personality, but with a stronger emphasis on moral and ethical implications. So there's the difference. So enduring qualities change over time. Character encompasses the traits that consistently shape a person's behavior and actions and interactions. Moral and ethical foundation. It reflects a person's values, principles, virtues, and beliefs about right and wrong, influencing their decisions and actions. Synonymous with personality. While often used interchangeably, character and personality are directly related. Character is a specific aspect of personality that focuses on moral dimensions. Excuse me. So here's an example of perhaps character traits, which I would just call virtues in philosophy: honesty, integrity, empathy, compassion, resilience, courage, temperance, patience. These are all examples of character traits, or as I would call them, virtues. So two more things, excuse me. Character versus personality again. Personality encompasses a broader range of traits, including social skills, cognitive styles, mental states, while character specifically addresses just the moral stuff and the ethical aspects. Development of character, this is the last one. Character development is a lifelong process, as Alex said a second ago, influenced by experience, relationships, and the social constructions we live in.
Yeah,
what do you think about that?
Again, I know that this is what is like written in textbooks, and like I understand where they were coming from when they wrote those things, but like morals and ethics are enduring in the fact that they will always exist within you and you will always have them. They are not enduring on how you feel about what you're feeling. Those things can change drastically in minutes or barely at all over years.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like the wording to change. I think it would be.
I agree with you. It needs to be more context specific and situational. I agree.
Yeah, it was like identity is dynamic and character is relatively stable. That would be like, oh, my personality has been the same since I was born until now. I'm gonna go shit my pants. Like that doesn't make any sense.
Agreed. Yeah, this is all textbook stuff. So
yes, absolutely.
I agree with your critiques of it. I really do.
But my critiques on it are the way that, like, at least when I talk to my colleagues, when I talk to other people in my field, that's the direction that we are going. Everything is malleable. We just talk about it in slightly different ways. If we're talking about character, we're talking about how you act and feel during situations, and talk about the difference between the actions and the feelings.
Yeah, your values in a certain situation, situational, contextual.
Mm-hmm.
So what I hear from you then, Alex, is when it comes to character and describing the nuanced kind of everyday context-dependent situations, we live in a Heraclitean world where everything is constantly changing. Whereas even though personality may be also changing, it is so minimal that the language we should use is more stable. And we don't need to worry about the nuanced, kind of ever-changing language to use for character. Personality is a bit more being and stable. So linguistically, we don't need to use that kind of flux language as we do for character.
So personality is it is stable. It is time dependent, or like context over time dependent. Like you can't identify as being a musician until you've experienced playing an instrument.
Would you say that the musician, what would need to change for that person to not be called a musician anymore? it seems like that's a title that sticks until you die.
Yeah, and so that like the personality is very additive at points, but there
True.
are points where like let's say somebody is a white supremacist, and then they learn, then they like meet people of different races, and they interact with them. They learn and they grow over time. They get rid of their previous held beliefs by adding these other things, but then those like you add the new belief that all people are equal or same and their differences are bad, and you rip the other one out and throw it away in adding that. You don't remain a white supremacist that believes these things.
That additive was a change of personality, you're saying. The additive of that belief was a change of personality.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Also a change of character, but also a change of personality. Yeah.
Both, yes.
Yeah, it would be both in tandem, because as far as the research that I've been reading is that they can be interchangeable, but a lot of people think that that character is slightly a subset of personality.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see a handful of these different descriptions of character and personality being used beneficially for the purpose of well-being to a different personality of person. Maybe different personalities see these different heuristics of what personality is as useful.
Yeah. I think the underlying important thing is... Oh, I'm sorry, Alex.
I was going to say that, like if you're like, this is my kind of personality, this is the way that I act in situations, here's my character, I feel these ways and I act these ways in accordance with my character, or in discord with my character for whatever situation it is. And because I act these ways and because I interact these ways, this is how I identify as a person.
Yeah.
Could be the case for certain people.
I don't think you can separate those three things, but I think the self is what the important part here is. I think that's the thing that we need to cultivate and we need to allow to change and watch it change and nurture it, and
The other metaphysical woo-woo thing I would say is the way that personality, character, and identity make up the self. Justification, truth, and belief make up knowledge. And I try and find some way to connect those things, like the German idealists back then.
Yeah. And of course, we have the Gettier problems and cognitive luck, so JTB isn't perfect, but nothing is. So
yeah, maybe there's a Gettier case for the self also.
Maybe there is. Yeah.
This is what German idealism is. It's just a bunch of woo-woo.
Nothing is perfect, and that is why being a therapist, we have practices, because I don't have a perfect. Everything is practice. I want to address some of the questions that I see here popping up in the chat. Do you have an opinion on the idea of individualism? People who are excessively individualistic, they don't like thinking of themselves as dependent on others or on society, prefer seeing themselves as totally self-sufficient. Yes, I do. I do have an opinion on this. I know a lot of these people, so I think the idea, I think about this a lot. To me, the irony is identity seems to be something that emerges from society. It is only because of our social nature that we care to have a specific identity at all. So, okay. So having the personality of a pure individualist seems kind of backwards. Do you think that this is a healthy way to be, or is it kind of misguided? Okay. I am now going to use Dungeons and Dragons as an example of this.
Yay!
I love D&D. When I have a person make a character and they tell me that their parents are dead, I am like, when did your parents die? If they're like, I never had parents, I'm like, well, then who raised you? You're not birthed into this world, and something did not, you would die. You would die within a matter of like minutes to a few days. So something raised you. So that like you are not ruggedly individualistic when you are a child. So, or like as an infant and a toddler. Now, if we're going to talk about people that are like, let's say you are 6 and your parents leave you alone most of the time. Your parents haven't taken you out of the crib because they think that children should stay in their room. And so now you are 5, 6, 7. You have a sibling who is like 2, 3, and you guys are sleeping in the same crib because your parents want nothing to do with you. They never even wanted kids. Why wouldn't you become ruggedly individualistic? You do not think that anyone is out there to help you. You don't think that anyone has your best interests. You don't think that other people care about other people. The only examples that you've ever been shown of another person is that nobody cares. And chances are, even if you were to look at them, you'd be like, no, my parents can't possibly care about each other. They don't care about me either. No one cares about anyone. So it's individualism all the way down. You grow up and you see other people interacting with each other, and they appear to be friendly towards each other. But the only time that a person is ever friendly is when they want something. Or at least that's my experience. So I just tell myself, they're just interacting with each other because they want something. This is purely transactional. They're trying to get something out of the other person. That person is lying through their teeth so that they can get the better deal from this person. I have to learn how to just take care of myself by any means necessary. I should have a bunker in the woods because society will fail because nobody's out to help anybody else. I need a lot of canned goods because amongst many reasons, this is the stuff that doesn't go bad, with no thought to the fact that I am buying stuff from a store that is made by other people. So yes, I think that rugged self-reliance, rugged individualism is essentially nonsense. But I do see it as like a heavy coping mechanism from some kind of very either physically or emotionally traumatized childhood.
I agree entirely.
Yes, I think that this is an unhealthy way to be. And I do think that identity, like I said earlier, there is the social aspect of identity, the external factors of identity, where you have your parents raising you, or somebody like you have somebody that raises you. You have somebody that that contributes to that. You have friends that are farther out. You have people that you work with, people that you see every day in your community, neighbors, and then you have strangers after that. So there are all of, like, we are always learning, always in the learning good things or learning bad things, but we are always learning. Your brain is always taking in information. Let's see. But is it necessarily the case? Can't you have a person that is very morally self-aware and forces their reactions to match their moral theory? I think saying that everything is dynamic and ever-changing kind of says that there is no pattern at all, that there is no pattern at its extreme, which is obviously nonsense. A person is themselves through time, which mutuates due to the environment themselves. Also, what someone identifies themselves as and what they are very different things. Yes. Okay. I would say that I'm going backwards now, but what somebody identifies themselves as and what they are, I think that there are times where those are different. Like, you know, if you identify yourself as a cashier because that's your job right now, and then you lose your job or you quit and you get a job as like a security guard, then you wouldn't identify as that first one anymore. You'd identify as this one over here. You could be like, oh, like I was a cashier, so like there's still that identity that exists within me, but like I am currently this thing versus I used to be. So those things, like that does change over time. Now, yeah, a person is themselves always and forever. We're in a constant state of being ourselves. I always ask people if you're not yourself, then who are you? Well, I'm not the me that I want to be. Okay, well then you are the you that you are right now. So there's the real self and the ideal self that we went over earlier. So yes, there are things that stay consistent for a long time. We're learning as we're growing. If you find that you're in a place that you're like, okay, I understand my epistemological reasonings for these things, and I'm going to stay here until proven otherwise, because I'm fallible. Then those are things that will stick with you for an extremely long time until someone proves you different, but the fallibilism will stay with you always. So yes, there are pieces of yourself that are consistent over time. You can see them shift and change in minor ways, but there are things that will be there for your whole life, or like you'll get them and then they'll stay with you for the rest of your life. See if there's any other. Yeah, so does anybody have any other questions? I love to answer questions.
I mean, I can always come up with some, but I'd like to hear some from the audience more.
Yeah, no, exactly. Anyone out there in the internet has something that they would like to ask, I am here.
Have you looked on YouTube and Discord?
I am looking on YouTube right now.
Right.
While the show is called Psych Out, the Psych is in. Hello. Yeah. And if you ask me anything about politics, I will manipulate it and change it into a question about psychology.
I love you so much. That's what I love about you.
Oh yeah, people do have this much time to think about stuff that they have a real job to think about this stuff. That's right. Crazy. I do this for a living, and that's how I pay my bills.
If you don't have time for self-actualization and gaining self-knowledge and increasing your self-awareness, introspection, all this good stuff, I don't think you can really truly live a moral life, a really sound and valid epistemology, a moral life. I mean, all these things are going to escape you. And you can be a genius and let this shit escape you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hello.
Sorry, Alex. I brought up Vincent.
No, it's perfectly fine. I was about to do the same. Hello, Vincent.
Ahoy! Hello.
My answer is yes. But
Yeah, would you like to elaborate on that? I'm just curious what your take is. I'm not familiar with this server. I'm not familiar with who you are or what is going on here exactly. I just heard I came in and I heard the question and I had an answer to a question.
I have a very long answer to this question and a therapeutically relevant answer to this one also. Is that
what the question is for everyone watching?
Yes, the question is, have I ever done psychedelics and experienced the loss of my identity? Loss is a complicated thing because as I've been saying this whole time, I added so much more to who I was and my understanding of where I was in the universe and the extreme expanse that exists out there. It was Thomas, how did you put this the other day? Not spiritual.
What's that?
Transcendent.
Transcendental? Transcendent, yes.
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 So I had a feeling of transcendence while I was doing psychedelics. 100% thought I was dead for months. And then I became less convinced of reality for like 2 years. Didn't think it was real. Hey, CJ. But yes, I have definitely done psychedelics. I have done mushrooms, acid.
Bless up, son. I have to.
Yeah. But yeah, and it has opened up like different doors and understanding of the way, like the nature of reality and how it exists within like your perception, the subjectivity of reality, the objectivity that exists continuously. We're not able to view objective reality or necessarily measure that thing, but that doesn't mean that it's not there.
Correct, sir. Correct.
Yeah. So, yes, I have definitely experienced this kind of like loss of my previous identity and experiencing of a new, grander thing. Some people could call it spiritual. Some people could call it transcendental. But yes,
Maybe it's emergent. Maybe it's something that's greater than the sum of its parts. You never know.
Absolutely. You can never tell. That being said, I am also certified in psychedelic psychotherapy or psycholytic therapy. I do ketamine therapy. We are still trying to legalize psilocybin therapy in California. When that happens, I'm going to be getting my certification for that also. It is an amazing therapy for addiction and PTSD. It has so ketamine therapy has a 60% recovery rate for alcoholism. Absolutely nothing has anything even remotely close to that. I think it's very valid. It's a good practice. When we're doing ketamine therapy, we are not giving people like heroic dosages of it. So it's a relatively minor dose. It's less than you would get in like surgery. If you've had surgery, you've done ketamine, probably. It's in almost all analgesics when they're giving it to you, because it is a dissociative. And what is a dissociative? It lets you not feel like you're inside of yourself. So if you don't feel like you're inside of you, then you don't feel like you have the ramifications of talking about certain things. So now you can talk about your trauma from the perspective of an outsider, and that lets you work through those things without having the panic attack. It lets you work through them without having to like, how do I become vulnerable enough to feel these emotions? So it is a great way to get over those things. You can also like go deeper into it and feel that loss of self, that connection to different things. And it also increases neuroplasticity by about tenfold for 3 to 7 days, depending on the person, depending on the dosage. Neuroplasticity is what allows us to create new neural connections. So if you want to get new habits or break old habits, it's fantastic to speedrun that.
I've never experienced ketamine, but I have experienced high doses of both LSD and mushrooms, so psilocybin. How would you compare a micro dose in that versus a heroic dose in that to say mushrooms?
Okay, so the evidence that we have right now for microdosing versus like a full dose, microdosing, it can help in like short-term situations. It's like a Band-Aid, but if all you need is a Band-Aid, then like if you're having the beginning symptoms of like depression or anxiety, but you don't have like, there's no like long-term stuff going on here, then it can be effective. like if it's situational depression or situational anxiety, those things can be helpful. But if we are trying to treat things like PTSD or generalized anxiety, chronic depression, and all of these things are drug resistant. Like, Prozac's not helping you, Wellbutrin's not helping you, then psychedelics are able to access those areas a lot easier. And in high dosages, you're able to have a ego death or a mystic experience. That's the clinical term. I love that we make mystic experience a clinical term. That's fantastic. Good people working on that research. But yes, so I think that microdosing has its place, but it has its place occasionally. But if we're trying to do like real work and like real deep therapy with this kind of stuff, and you want like lasting results with it, then doing closer to like a heroic dose is more efficacious.
Do you know how it affects people with? Sorry, do you know if it's effective for people with OCD?
It is. Yes.
Well, I have somebody who I know who has OCD, who refuses to. She doesn't want to do ketamine therapy because she thinks it will permanently change her brain, and it's kind of induces like an OCD episode in her just to even think about it.
Okay, so we're gonna end this really fast. I'm going to answer your question first before we end the cast. So when we do ketamine therapy, the first session is always to like understand that person, help hype that stuff up. Like, hey, this is going to be great. It's going to work out for you. Like, here are all the stats on it. If that's what you want to hear, it's fantastic. And we try to make it as enjoyable as possible so that you're less likely to have like an OCD episode. You're less likely to have a panic attack. Less likely to go into these like negative spaces, unless that's what we're trying to access. But you're less likely to go into those negative spaces if we're trying to create like power for you. Because OCD is always related to other things also. So like anxiety, usually, OCD lets us feel like we have a sense of control over the world around us. So it makes sense. If you were obsessively controlling of the world around you, would you want to be on a substance that makes you feel like you might not be in control anymore? No. Sounds absolutely terrifying. Hard sell. It works very well with OCD, but it is a hard sell for people with OCD. I would say therapy first, have the therapist bring it up to her. Or like if the therapist is certified in ketamine therapy, then they'll bring it up to her if they feel like it is a efficacious thing to do, if it's therapeutically relevant for her. Does that make sense, Vincent?
Yeah, it does. It's not really my place to tell her what to do, though. She's just a friend. She's not like anybody.
No. Very true. Very true. We can tell our friends to go to therapy, though. I tell my friends to go to therapy all the time.
She's already doing something called ERP. I think that's what it's called, ERP, for her stuff. And she wants to do, I don't know what it's called, EDMR, I think.
Oh, EMDR. Yeah.
EMDR. Yeah. She's going to try those two.
Yeah, EMDR is good for OCD. So is brain spotting. They're both really good for OCD. I'm just going to say it again. Psychedelics, like nothing is hitting the numbers that psychedelics are hitting. They are like very good. for therapy if you are a therapist that is good at doing that kind of therapy. It is also very dangerous if you are a bad therapist. So we have to be very critical when we're giving people these certifications.
Do you think legalizing like psilocybin therapy would change how people use it in day-to-day use? Like, do you think it would restrict it for some people?
I think that if we were to legalize hallucinogens, that it would probably take some of the like, oh, I'm cool and fun out of it. And then we would also be, as a society, we would begin to view these things through a clinical lens. And so people would view these things more from like a health perspective, instead of a get fucked up and go party. So yeah. So please, if you have enjoyed this podcast, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's in the Pangburn universe. That way you can come back and we can have fun again. You can come back next week when we talk.
Yeah, please come to our Discord, everybody. The link is going to be on Pangburn YouTube. Go to Pangburn on YouTube, and the Discord link will be in the top right. There are other ways to get there. You can go to Google and search Pangburn Discord or Travis Pangburn Discord. You'll find it there. Please come join us and be a part of this. And I also want to remind everybody that April 26th will be in Detroit with Destiny. Tickets are still available at pangburn.com/tickets, I believe is the correct way. And please, we hope to see you, and we'd love to talk to you. And by the way, Alex, I love
and engaging. Love you all. Bye.
Bye.